As Sydney sprawls outwards, and Australia's cities continue to be more and more urbanised, the Australian dream seems further than ever. To be near the city, one needs to accept an alienating and compartmentalised existence, often lacking the groundings that connect a place and person to the land in which they sit. We aim to create buildings in a homestead, homes that sit in a greater neighbourhood, a neighbourhood that still speaks of Australia. Through our proposal, we want to install a sense of belonging to all inhabitants, be they public or private, resident or visitor, native or foreign. Call it a revised Australian dream, filled with the same brush boxes and gum trees, wide paths and places to get out the bat and ball, a backyard project. We are proposing a model precinct, a beacon to be built first within the Greater Waterloo Redevelopment Precinct. Through our proposal, we aim to celebrate and accentuate the many features of the site. Through this, we plan to grow the precinct in a sensitive and holistic manner, in a way which benefits the greater area, as well as the current and future inhabitants of the site. Our approach aims to be sympathetic to the social facets of the development, whilst maintaining financial viability and meeting environmental sustainability targets. We aim to approach the redevelopment as more than a static one-off involvement. Rather, our approach will be extending from the present into the future, viewing the redevelopment as being in a constant state of flux, made to benefit the environment, inhabitants, and stakeholders for the present and years to come. The Waterloo Backyard Project.
Give me a home among the gum trees, with lots of plum trees. A sheep, a toowock, a kangaroo, a clothesline out the back, veranda out the front, and an old rocking chair. Up we go. Some people like their houses with fences all around. Others live in mansions and some beneath the ground. But me, I like the bush, you know, with rabbits running round. And a pumpkin vine out the back. This is your turn.
Give me a home among the gum trees, with lots of plum trees. A sheep, a toowock, a kangaroo, a clothesline out the back, veranda out the front, and an old rocking chair.
Give me a home among the gum trees, with lots of plum trees. A sheep, a toowock, a kangaroo, a clothesline out the back, veranda out the front, and an old rocking chair.
Our design ethos is centered around three key elements. People. We aim to create a place which provides a platform of opportunity for all inhabitants, creating a place which strengthens people's sense of self and place in the world, allowing them to flourish and grow. Planet. Environmentally, we aim to take a life cycle approach to all elements of the redevelopment, including how the development will perform in the future. We aim to have as minimal impact as possible on the environment. Profit. We aim to provide maximum financial return on our development and in doing so minimise the amount of government funding required. We aim to keep the project financially viable long into the future. In line with our ethos, the development's key changes to the site include a financially driven border made up of commercial spaces along Cope and Pitt Street, a public square with a highly trafficked pedestrian thoroughfare route, readapted car parks with resident amenity on top, and a large-scale landscape plan. In regard to large built elements, the backyard project will include alterations to the towers and a large-scale additions to the slab blocks. A new co-living block is to be built in the southern part of the site, as well as a resident community pavilion in the site centre. In saying this, we aim to retain as much as possible on the site. We want to alleviate the lack of focus on the site, creating a backyard and destination instead of a passageway for both residents and the public. We believe that sensory value is installed through creating places to pause, move, and feel part of. One of the tenets of our ethos is minimum impact on all facets of design. This means that we aim to keep residents in their houses for as much time as possible during construction. As a first phase, the circulation of the existing site is to be altered so that the ground plane is still trafficable and not impeded by construction work. This is to be followed by beginning the construction of the co-living block. The next phase is the construction of the external lifts, followed by the additions on the snab blocks and the ground floor renovations. Before the internal lifts are removed and the new balconies are installed, residents will have the option to move into the new co-living blocks so as to not be disturbed by construction noise. We aim to tie the precinct to the greater land in which it sits through views, planting and landscaping. In doing this, we wish to create a place which evokes a sense of self and belonging. Most mature trees will remain on the site, especially those which fall within the landscape zones. We aim to keep nearly all of the brush boxes, native figs, lemon-scented gums, stringy barks and paper barks. Proposed planting is native and requires minimal maintenance. Through earthworks and the removal of obstacles, natural surveillance is improved through allowing for direct sightlines to all areas of site. The addition of more residents and commercial space allows for greater ownership of place and thus a more policed environment. We aim to keep the site as open as possible to not only improve safety but also how the precinct will perform in the future with growth and maintenance. On the ground plane, tight-knit ground cover is removed and replaced with low-lying spot shrubs which do not impede vision. The more open site allows for better access of emergency vehicles. Through creating two programs within the site, access is split into two levels, one being the resident plane and the other being the civic plane. The civic plane holds the commercial spaces whilst allowing for traffic and movement. The inhabitant plane is generally at a constant level, whilst the civic plane bisects the site, adhering to the general slope of the site. This removes the pressures of public traffic and public issues, whilst improving access control, lighting and the general safety on site. Through social and economic research, a tenure mix was established which benefits the various stakeholders involved with the development. As per our design ethos, this was based on social and economic factors. There are currently 838 existing social housing apartments on site, which we have retained and enhanced through the financial investment of 178 private apartments and 152 co-living beds. The proposed tenure mix ratio of the site is 70 social housing, 14 co-living and 16 private. In terms of social outcome, our research suggests that this allows the existing residents to feel as if they were in their original homes, with the option to mix with new private residents. Ultimately, this aims to glue all residents, both existing and new, old and young, together in the same way your quiet cul-de-sac suburban neighbourhood street does on Christmas Day. From an economic aspect, we incorporated a co-living scheme in order to gain constant rental income, which would allow for the maintenance and sustainability of the site over a long-term period. We are approaching the towers on a socially responsive level. The works done are in place to benefit the current and future residents, rather than being based wholly on financial gain. Thus, their alterations will be made economically viable by the project as a whole. Our key strategies are adding an external lift core, opening up the centre to improve the internal environment of the apartment building, adding lightweight balconies to the existing apartments, and extending the towers upwards to create a community area. This community space is fully glazed, accentuating the tower's beacon-like nature, allowing the towers to be seen from distant points in the greater city. Key design elements which are constant throughout the entirety of the backyard project are external lifts and balcony additions, reorientated entrances to suit the site and surrounding streetscape, two-door entry systems, and the use of solenoid fire doors as much as possible to keep the buildings open. Much like the towers, we are aiming to improve the quality of life for the existing tenants of the slab blocks. We aim to keep them in their apartments for the duration of the build and permanently retain the dwellings as social housing. We are proposing to alter the slab blocks in a similar manner to the towers. However, due to their orientation, we plan to open up the passageway that runs along the building to allow for cross-ventilation and greater light penetration within the building. On top of the existing building, we are enclosing the plant room and opening up the roof space to become a large roof garden in which all residents can enjoy. On top of the slab blocks, we are proposing various levels of private dwellings in the form of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. These levels are tiered and pulled back against the northern aspect. In tiering, large shared garden spaces are created. The top level is made up of generous penthouses, each having access to an extensive roof garden. The co-living block is made up of shared living levels and private apartments, designed in a similar fashion to the slab block additions. The co-living block is made up of served and servant spaces within the building, dividing the building from the centre outwards. The blended room options are generous enough to allow permanent stay, but compact enough to allow high-yield floor space. Through this plan, we aim to create spaces which can act as low-key office and entertainment spaces, focusing on the needs of students and young professionals. Whilst the slab blocks and towers largely cater to existing residents, the co-living block is focused on future residents. Above the co-living floors are residential apartment levels, designed in a similar fashion to the slab blocks, with tiered gardens and penthouses on top. The overriding strategies in materiality and construction are efficiency and speed, using prefabricated CLT construction in the larger elements of addition. Passive design strategies have been implemented into the existing and new buildings in order to achieve maximum thermal comfort for the occupants whilst minimizing energy use. The major passive scheme incorporated into both the towers and slab buildings is the atrium core, which acts as hot air release for the buildings. On top of the atrium is a glass louver unit and hydraulic glass roof, both of which can be opened and closed when required. Additionally, the atrium core acts as a light well with reflected mirrors on each floor and improves cross-ventilation. In addition to the atrium cores, there is an operable screening on all balcony additions and PV panels on top of the slab and new builds and co-living roof. We aim to use environmentally savvy materials which require little or no maintenance or secondary finish. In a similar fashion, we aim to plant only natives which require little or no maintenance. Through this, we aim to create honest architecture which suits the Australian landscape and reconnects its users to the architecture as a home and garden. The Backyard project aims to both embed and celebrate the precinct within the greater fabric of Sydney. The maintained openness of the precinct allows for markets, vivid shows, carnivals, concerts and other various events to take place. In years to come, the precinct will continue to allow people to express themselves and connect with each other, whether that be under the shade of a gum tree, playing sport, or just lazing under the Australian sun.